Hello, and welcome all to the Partnered Primary Care Research Podcast, Research for You, by you, a podcast dedicated to learning more about patient and community partners in patient-oriented primary care research in Canada. The Primary and Integrated Healthcare Innovations Network is proud to present this podcast with a focus on public representation in health. Join us to discover who our community partners are in our network and the people who work with them.
Hi, and welcome to Partnered Primary Care Research Podcast, Research for You, by you. My name is Jillian Bartlett Esquilant, and I'm the Executive Director of the Network Coordinating Office of the Primary and Integrated Healthcare Innovations Network. I am very pleased today to have Brenda Andreas from Maple Creek, Saskatchewan here today as our guest. And in one of those small world coincidences, I grew up in Alberta and we had friends in Maple Creek, which is a tiny town in southern Saskatchewan. So I was delighted to hear Brenda was from this area when I first met her last year. So Brenda, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, Jill, and thank you for having me here today. Full disclosure, I'm a little excited and I'm a little nervous. So, about me, I want to start by giving you two versions of my ever-evolving self. I was born way back in the winter of 1954 in a cold winter's night. Twins, my mother wasn't expecting us. We came early. I weighed less than 3 pounds, and I spent my childhood dealing with respiratory ailments. I also have a learning disorder that didn't get diagnosed until I got to school. And for me, it's about, I can't tell time. I can't tell left from right. I can't deal with basic math and numbers the way everyone else can. And I really have a lot of difficulty with spatial relations. My brain is wired a little bit differently. And maybe, just maybe, that's why I see connections in a lot of different ways. As an older adult, again, I found myself coming back to primary care because I have to deal with a number of the C conditions. And no, I'm not referring to cancer. I'm talking about chronic conditions. That the moment that we get to primary care, there's sometimes that feeling, oh, I might be a burden to the system. But I have asthma, I have arthritis, I have diabetes, I have hypertension. I even have had a stroke in my left eye, which affects my vision. So all of these things are how the healthcare system sees me. Now, I want to share with you how my family and my community see me, because they see me differently. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm the caretaker of my village. I left home at 18 to go to university to become a social worker, and I had a wonderful career, part of it in healthcare, part of it giving out babies for adoption. But in my retirement, I moved back to Maple Creek because I have my twin and I have a sister who can't live alone, and so they live with me. Little did I know that that would be the year that we would have 6 deaths, including my parents, a major flood that would wipe out the Trans-Canada Highway, half of it, and that we would have a family fire that would take our family business and make our community to the point of we almost lost the community. That's a lot of trauma to experience in 1 year. But I'm active, I'm very involved in my community, and I answer to Bunny or Bunna Jean. My family has this unwavering belief that no matter what, at all times, I will be there for them as they journey through the healthcare system. At the same time, they tease me because on a good day, I get to 4 foot 10 and a half inches and I drive an old lady car, a Buick with a lot of trunk space. Healthcare is personal to me.
Thank you, Brenda. And you've reminded us with your introduction that there's a lot of judgment around chronic disease, that somehow people haven't taken care of themselves or they have done things that have resulted in chronic disease. And you've reminded us that there are things that are out of our control that start in childhood or before childhood, in conception, delivery, that have lifelong sequelae. You're also reminding us that a person is far more than their health. And depending on what lens you're looking at, you can take on so many different roles. So Bunny, and I completely get why you got that nickname. What they've left off is Energizer. So Brenda, you're actually the Energizer Bunny come to life, because you seem to have endless amounts of energy. So why, in addition to all of this that you're doing, which is all fantastic, and all these identities and roles you have, why did you become a patient partner? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, Jill, I became an accidental patient partner. My mother was a nurse. She started her career in our small community as a graduate nurse, and she finished her career 60 years later. And when my parents needed access to care, they didn't have that access that I felt that they should have. So I went public. I went to the newspaper and I told a story about how my family had had such challenges with the healthcare system. Long story short, Mom said to me, Bunny Jean, you have embarrassed me. I said, Mom, I didn't mean to do that. Instead, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to fix the healthcare system. So that was the beginning. And so the very beginning and I've been at this for like 11 years. It's a long time. And I've learned a lot in those years. The thing that's most important is that I got my grounding in becoming a patient partner within the Saskatchewan Health Authority. They invited me to tell my story to the board, and then they invited me to get involved in quality and safety initiatives and strategic planning. And back in those days, everything was lean and RPIW to death. And so I learned a lot about that. But then as a patient partner, I was given opportunity for a lot of privilege. And that privilege for me meant that I got to go and partner with a number of national organizations. I went to Accreditation Canada, where I learned how to become a patient surveyor. I went to Health Standards Organization, where I learned about standard development, and I had a pivotal role in learning about the new integrated people-centered care health systems standard that will be a bestseller very shortly. I went to the Canadian network group Leaders in Healthcare, and I learned about leadership and about system transformation and about change. And then accidentally, I ran into somebody, I think her name was Jill Bartlett, Dr. Bartlett, and she invited me to become a part of the Pan-Canadian Patient Advisory Council, because when I put all the pieces together about what I'd learned from the various and sundry venues of my TOJ, my training on the job, one thing that I found that in all that we do, everything is embedded in people-centered care. And the way that we approach people-centered care is the agenda of the stakeholder that I'm working with or collaborating with in that moment. And they all bring a very different lens to how we view healthcare. So everything I learned about healthcare that brought me into patient-oriented research is invaluable to me, and I carry it with me always.
Thank you. And that's why I guess your parents always say, be careful of talking to strangers. You never know where it might lead you. I'm very grateful you did speak with me. I enjoyed our discussions tremendously, and I'm glad that motivated you to take this to the next step. So you've talked a little bit about this, but do you want to elaborate a little bit on what it means to you to be a patient partner and your lived experience about patient partners in primary care and what matters to you? You have touched on this, but maybe a little more personalized in terms of what you're doing right now.
What matters most to me right now is the question always needs to be asked. What matters to the patient? And whether you're a provider, whether you're a researcher, whether you're a community partner, the first question should always be, did I have a conversation with a patient partner today? What did I learn from that patient partner? And how can I take that lived experience, that expertise, that they bring to the table, to the conversation that we're having right now? How did I incorporate what I learned into what I do in my realm of being a partner in a healthcare organization or a service provider or a program manager? How does all of that fit together? What really matters? And you're going to hear me say this time and time again, because it's really the heart and soul of who I am. Where's the humanity in healthcare? Where's the caring? Where's the compassion? Where is the visibility and the voice of that patient and family?
I think that is something that we need to be trying to incorporate not only in healthcare, but in research. And that's why I'm so glad that we are doing this series on patient-partnered research, because that does need to be included. And it is a challenge, but something very worthwhile and something that will strengthen and enrich our work. So for those who are out there listening and are inspired by you, Bunny, what advice would you have for someone thinking of becoming a patient partner? So you've been doing this for a while, and it sounds like it's been an evolution, and you keep pushing the bar on this. But for somebody starting out today, what's your advice?
My best advice for someone who wants to become a patient partner, whether it's through research or whether it's through any other avenue, the most important thing is two things. Be yourself, be who you are. And the second thing, this may sound a bit negative, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are many unintended consequences of our relationship within engagement in healthcare along our journey. And some of those unintended consequences can be very positive, and some of them can be heartbreaking. You need to know where you are on that spectrum, and you need to bring more, you need to move past that story or incorporate it and bring it with you, but it can't be the focal point of the reason that you're there being a patient partner. And don't underestimate the value of your expertise or your lived experience. Listen, learn, observe, ask questions, look at the healthcare system from more than the perspective that's most comfortable and familiar to you as a patient. When I was a social worker in healthcare, I never thought about researchers. I never thought about policymakers. I didn't think about payers or funders. I only thought about what was the impact of what was happening to me or the people that are the residents, the patients, the clients that I was working with. What was the impact in the moment of the engagement of direct care? There's so much more. And as a patient partner, you need to experience and learn about those connections and about those relationships as well.
I think that's excellent advice. So when you think back to all your different experiences, what's a moment in your patient partner journey that touched you the most or you're the most proud of? I like the fact that you mentioned, the positivity, and it can be heartbreaking, but there is a lot of good to come out of these. So what was something that you're most proud of?
Well, Jill, I got to talk about two things. And inside of both of these situations that I want to share with you, I really want to emphasize my vulnerability, because I at times can be very overwhelmed and lacking in confidence, even though it may not come across that way. But so be who you are and be proud of your vulnerability and whatever that is. So for me, my first experience was at a national integrated care summit when I was in a room full of strangers, and they were all world-class researchers, academics, policymakers, providers, funders, government. And after listening to the conversation for a day and a half, I decided that it was really important for me to get up and to ask them a question. And I asked them, and I'm holding this microphone in my hand, and I'm shaking so bad that I don't even know what my name is. And I asked them, can you describe for me the meaning of humanity and caring and compassion in healthcare? Can you describe for me what is your definition? What is your understanding? What is your relationship with that? And how do you carry that? How do you bring that forward? That was pretty scary. It was very pivotal. And there was a lot of deep conversation that changed in that room that day. And there was at least 200 people in there. The second time was in a more relaxed setting, and I felt right at home. And it was with Skipper. Health quality Skipper here in Saskatchewan was doing some training around the training modules for patients to become patient partners involved in research. And I had this kind of casual comment that I made, and I said, yeah, it's one thing to have researchers, but you got to figure out a way to connect up patient partners, community members, people interested in doing patient-oriented research with researchers. And it's not like you can just go to Tim's and have coffee and say, do you know anybody doing patient-oriented research? Do you know how I can get involved in a research experience? And so I said, what we need a place where we can connect, where we can advertise, where we can become visible. Visible meaning researchers or people doing research on one end and patients on the other. I didn't hear anything for about 2 years. And then I got a phone call. And it was Mallory. And she said to me, Bunny, guess what? Go check out the Skipper website. They do. They have a place on the Health Quality Skipper website where researchers doing research can connect, partner, engage with people, patients, partners, communities who want to do research. And what's so exciting about that, Jill, is not just that it's happening in the research community, but because Saskatchewan is such a small province, we're all connected. Our universities, our health partner organizations, our ministry is just down the street. So we're all connected, but now we have a visible place where we can all come and get connected. I'll stop there.
That's excellent. And it always strikes me that even with the pandemic and our reliance on so many virtual modes of communication, we still lack systematic way to connect. And you kind of stole my thunder on that one. I'm going to talk about that at the end about how to become involved. That's fantastic. And for those of our international listeners, Tim's or Timmy's or Tim Hortons, as we call it in Canada, is our local cafe. So it's your Starbucks or whatever your equivalent is to the local meeting place where you can get coffee, tea, and whatever your local pastry is and share ideas. It's usually very pivotal, especially in smaller communities. So it's a little bit of Canadiana there for you. Okay, Brenda, that was all great. And it segues nicely into my next question for you, which is I'm wondering if you have any messages for the researchers out there who are new to this and are considering embarking on this challenging, but as I repeatedly say, in rewarding endeavor. So what do you got for the researchers? What do you want to share with us and tell us?
Well, of course, I have a lot to say. First of all, I'd like to say, get out of your comfort zone, start a conversation, build a relationship, get connected with other stakeholders, step outside of the boundaries of that which is familiar to you. Become visible in your communities, find out who your community, and when I talk about community, I'm talking about not just the academic world, but I'm talking about the geographic communities. I'm talking about the patient communities. Find out who those people are, find out where they are, find a way to establish a relationship with them. And for me, every opportunity that I have to engage with a provider or a researcher, I consider that to be a teaching moment where we can learn and grow and lead together in collaboration and co-creation. Something else that's really important in patient-oriented research is equity. Don't make assumptions about how prepared or what's important to your patient partners. Little things like a Canadian Common CV can make a big difference, and they may or may not need one, or they may or may not need help to acquire one. So make sure that they understand their role, their purpose. I don't like to say do's and don'ts, but tokenism is instantly felt and experienced, and it's really just a turnoff. So take tokenism out of that equation and really just take a moment. The more effort and energy you put into a research collaboration at the front end, where you take the time to establish and build and clarify and build what I like to call is in that middle space, that ethical space where you come together, where your purpose is not so much to already have solutions or answers, but to really talk about What are the questions we should be asking? What are the metrics that we should be measuring? What is the methodology that we need to use as part of this process? And most importantly, including your patient partners in the knowledge translation. It's like winning a lottery ticket for the patient partner. It's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow in another way. Again, I just can't reiterate enough the importance of building relationships, trusting relationships where you may not always know what's behind the curtain, but you're sure going to get there together. I better stop there.
Thank you, Brenda. You remind me of a quote that I was very moved by today, and it was posted in relationship to Black History Month, and it was by Verna Myers, and she said, "Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance." So I think a lot of patient partners are invited to the party, but now let's make sure we're asking them to dance with us. And I like that very much for a lot of different reasons. So Brenda, any final words for our audience as we wrap up this podcast?
One, I'm going to tell you my biggest secret, and it's about the healthcare system. I dream big and I want more. Health system change and transformation means for me in bringing humanity and compassion and caring into all that we do in the healthcare system. Primary care and patient-oriented research may not be as sexy as some of the bells and whistles in terms of innovation and technology changes, but for the majority of us, we receive our care in primary care, and it's really important for us at that level, at the community level, that we be visible, that we have voice, and that we can be collaborators and co-creation and design of our healthcare. We like those bells and whistles, but primary care is really what's important. And when I talk about primary care, I need that to be, I think about that as I grow older, is more than just health. It's about well-being, and it's what matters.
Thank you, Brenda, for your inspiring words. I hope that others are inspired by you as I have been. For those of you wondering how you can get involved as a patient or community partner, if you go to our website, spore-pici.com, that is spor-pici.com, on the landing page, there's a map. If you click on your province or territory, the links for that particular network site will appear. On their website, you should find more information on how to link with your local primary care research groups. At the bottom of the page, there's also a link under Get in Touch that will allow you to email us directly. This is the same page where you can find our previous podcast recordings. I would like to thank our production staff, Anik Beaudry, Jamie Demore, and our own production patient partner, Kent Cadogan Lofsgaard. Join us for our next episode for more voices from our patient and community partners, where we are highlighting the active and engaging role they play in our patient-oriented research agenda for primary care. In other words, more research for you, by you.
This podcast was brought to you by the Primary and Integrated Healthcare Innovations Network, otherwise known as the PICI Network, in collaboration with the Saskatchewan Strategy for Patient-Oriented Research PICI Network. Visit our website at sporpici.com. That's spor-pici.com to learn more about our activities and upcoming events.